Look at those models of the road. I paid them respect. They're the real queens of the road. So I remember you guys saying that you enjoy seeing me cook. So today I bring another cooking video. So the first thing you want to do is you grab a pot. Then since we are a very impatient generation, you want to crank that up high so that this thing sets ablaze a little faster. You hear the little water droplets beginning to sizzle. That's when you know that it's time to maybe add a little bit of salt. So you will add just a little bit of salt just to make sure that the milk starts boiling a little faster. But you don't want to do a lot of salt because that can make your blood pressure really go up. I personally like to use an iodized salt just because iodine is really good for you. So yeah, let's keep our health in our chins. Now my recipe is a coconut oatmeal, so undoubtedly you will want to use coconut milk. I don't do unsweetened, I do original, so that way I don't have to add so much sugar to it. But the idea to make this taste good is it needs to be sweet. Assuming that your coconut milk comes in a carton after you've shaken it well, you dispense it. And then at this point, it would be a very good idea to crank down on the fire. Because what's gonna happen is it'll start boiling in a rolling fashion and then it'll create a big mess. I had to learn that the hard way when I was so inexperienced in the kitchen. And I am trying to protect you from having to clean up so much. I know that sucks. By the way, the utensil that you utilize is also important, so I recommend that you use one that looks like this. Now we are just waiting for the milk to start boiling again, and after that you want to add 1.5 scoops of oatmeal. That's the serving for me, but it depends on your dietary necessities. So you can go ahead and do 2 if you would like, because this is so delicious that you will wish that you had done more, just to let you know. Alright, as you can see, it started to do its rolling boil, which means that the boiling, of course, is starting from the bottom. So now is the perfect time to add your scoops of oatmeal. I personally like to do organic rolled oats. I believe that I said oatmeal a few seconds ago, so please forgive me. I meant to say oats. And I personally like to use them organic. You know what? Let's do 2.5 scoops because I am fat. And this is a very good source of fiber, which means that I will literally get rid of this as soon as I eat it. Now you want to make sure that you stir it occasionally. Now that I've stirred it for a little bit and it's been about a minute, I like to add honey as my sweetener. And I have to apologize for any of you who'd like to use exact measurements, but I am someone who cooks by eyeballing things. So the best way that I can describe this is you just do a little bit of a tad bit, which means that looks good. It seems good. You don't need so much because remember, our coconut milk is already sweet. So this is just to make sure that the sweetness is even throughout the oatmeal. And then you want to make sure that you stir it very well so that it's consistent. This next ingredient is probably going to be a controversial one because it may sound like I am literally recommending that you go to the hospital, but what makes this recipe actually work and be so yummy is that I like to add a teaspoon of coconut oil because that is what helps give the very, very concentrated coconutty flavor. So I'll do 1/2 teaspoon and then the other half I will include it in the next round after I stir it. As you can see, it is right there in the middle, so now you just want to stir it so that it blends throughout the oatmeal. And at this point, I would recommend that you crank down the fire because I personally don't like for my oatmeal to be dry. I like for there to be some milk left over so that it is creamy. And here comes the next round of oil. And blend it. The reason I say this might be controversial is because of the saturated fats that are found in coconut oil, and then some people insist on saying that this is literally poison for you, but for me, if the elites say that it's bad for you, I totally consume it. It probably means that it's a very good thing for me. Now comes an ingredient that is going to add so much fun to the recipe, and that is coconut shreds. And that is what's going to reinforce once again the coconut flavor, because I understand that it's very difficult to make things taste like coconut sometimes. So the key and trick is shreds. I personally like to dispense some 3 times. So here's the first layer, stir it. Here comes the second layer, stir it. And at this point, you can actually turn this off because as you can see, my milk is evaporating and I don't want that to happen all the way. And then the last layer. This you can dispense as your heart desires, but this is what I routinely do. So therefore, I'm just letting you know that I do it 3 times. And then with the heat that's remaining in the burner, you should be fine. So this whole process to fix this oatmeal, it should take about 7 minutes. Now this is completely optional, but I personally like to add a little bit of cinnamon, just because cinnamon adds a little bit of a spice to it. So you absolutely do not have to do this if you want to preserve the absolute taste of coconut, but for me it adds a really, really good flavor. So what you want to do is use it sparingly. So about But for me personally, I love cinnamon, so I don't really go too sparingly. Now you want to stir it. Now the way I know that I did a good job at dispensing cinnamon is that the color of the oatmeal becomes a little more on the tan side, a little bit more dark, but not too dark, but just dark enough, like not as dark as me. Now it's time to dispense into a bowl. And then finally, to add to the health of this recipe, I personally like to add chia seeds. They're a very good source of energy and just good for you overall. But you gotta be careful because it has a little bit of a taste and a bit of a grainy feel to it, as you can expect. So it may compromise the flavor just very subtly. And additionally, to finish off, the last ingredient that I tend to do is flaxseed, because they are also very good for you, and I am all about being healthy, but these do have a very strong flavor to it, so I just like to do it on the top layer so that on my first spoonfuls I get rid of the seeds and then focus on the rest of the oatmeal, completely free of the intervention of these seeds flavors. Well, that's it, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this recipe and that it's something different for you to explore and try and consider. I personally love to do this. It's so delicious. I could have it every day of my life. I'm trying to actually have oatmeal every day, so this is just the way that I have fixed that I feel like it's my all-time favorite, so I just wanted to share it. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.